It's Fernando Ruiz Art. Hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. And you are getting a sneak preview of my latest Kitty Die cover. And this, of course, you can see by the baby Dippy the Dead Kid. This, of course, is an homage. There's my blurb. It's an homage to the Mandalorian. So with this Kitty Die story arc, this latest trade, it's called Kitty Die Starstruck. And it takes place with Kitty in outer space. And as usual, Kitty Die is full of satire and parody, so we take on a lot of the popular sci-fi tropes. And of course, we just couldn't let the Mandalorian go by without doing a nod. So there it is. This is the cover to Kitty Die Starstruck number 4. And as soon as I finish inking it, it's penciled. I may do some other background things to make it a little bit more Mandalorian-ish. But as soon as I finish, I will send it off to my colorist Anwar Hanano, and he will work his magic. The Kitty Die Starstruck Kickstarter is still underway, and in fact, today being March 30th, as I record this, today we were funded. Now, that doesn't mean it's all over. There are still, I believe, 22 days left in our campaign, 23. So now the stretch goals begin. So if you have not supported Kitty Die yet, please check out the campaign. Dan Parent, my co-creator on Kitty Die, and myself, we're offering a lot of original artwork through the campaign. So if you ever wanted something that I did or something that Dan did, this is a great opportunity to pick it up and support our next big work. So please check it out. I'll have the link in the description below. So speaking of Baby Dippy, or rather Baby Yoda, that's going to be what we're going to talk about today. I've had requests to draw Baby Yoda, and Baby Yoda is very popular. I have my my Baby Yoda reference all set up, so you always need reference, especially with new ground, relatively new ground like Baby Yoda is. Where I haven't drawn him too often. I've drawn one previous Baby Yoda, and wouldn't you know it, he sold right away. So I'm going to start out as I usually do, and hopefully you guys can pick this up because I'm working very lightly with a basic oval for the shape of his head. I may want to, you know what? Let me work, because Baby Yoda has a very oval, really very horizontal head. So what I'm going to do is turn my page so it is horizontal. And as I said, I want to start out with this oval. Normally I do a vertical oval, but again, he's got a very horizontal head. I'm going to rough in those ears. I'm not going to grid him thoroughly, just going to do these crosshairs. Normally, for a more human, realistic face, I would grid a little bit more in more detail with a few more lines. But with a face like his that kind of defies anatomy already, the crosshair should be enough for me. Now, of course, probably his most outstanding feature are those big, gigantic eyes. He also has a fairly pronounced, if subtle, brow. If you ever notice, Baby Yoda's face sometimes is very much in shadow. And some of that may be due to the dramatic lighting of the show, but some of it may be due to his unique face structure. He has a little tiny nose, And I'm not going crazy overly delineating everything on him. Okay, because I am going to render a lot of this in tone, as we'll hopefully see in a second. So he's got his big eyes. He's got a very tiny little face, which makes him kind of cute, I guess. He's got his little chubby cheeks. The eyes are largely black. I'm not going to worry too much about shading them in too religiously just yet. Got a few creases. Those two I'll define better going forward. The ear. I'm going to go with the other ear. And as I've said in previous videos, I really like to jump all over the character without getting too bogged down into heavy details too quickly. And this just lets me keep tabs on all aspects of the character. So he's got his little sweater, scarf, vest thing, whatever that is that he wears. So I've got him largely penciled out. I'm looking for some of the key landmarks to his structure, his appearance, like where ridges are, and I'm just very lightly delineating those, like ridges, bumps, the little unique shape of his nose. He's got the little mouth, little chin. I'm gonna bring up that collar a little bit more. And bring up his head a little bit. And that becomes, I guess, Baby Yoda for the most part. So I've been using my usual 0.5 millimeter mechanical pencil, but I'm gonna switch over to, this is a British pencil. As you might be able to tell from the British spelling of the word drafting. It's a very soft wooden pencil. It's very soft lead in there. And the reason I'm switching over to this is because I want to go in and I want to do some rendering. I want to do some fancy shading on this. So I'm going to throw some shadow where I believe some shadow should go. Underneath his cheeks, he's got some shadow from being in that little turtleneck monkey suit, whatever he's wearing. As I said before, usually whenever we see Baby Yoda, it's usually dramatically lit. The front of his face is usually in some sort of heavy shadow. He also tends to hang out a lot on some very sunny planets. So this part, it's almost like I'm painting with the pencil. So I'm going in. I'm not going in super dark, except maybe in the eyes, because like I said, he's got black eyes, large black eyes. And there's always like a little bit of highlight in there, and I may reinforce that highlight a little later with the eraser. I may go in and pick out the highlights. I'm gonna go in, add the shadows to his little mouth there. And I'm just laying down kind of a neutral medium gray. I'm not going as dark as I could in some of these areas, like for example underneath his brow here, that gets a little darker. I don't look at that shadow and say, that's a black, and I'm gonna go in with an absolute black, because if I'm wrong and I want it to be lighter, well, it's gonna be tough to come back from that. It's gonna be, it might be a little too dark then to soften it. So I like to build up my tones gradually. Say a little bit lighter, and it's another reason why I do also like to bounce around the whole figure, and that's because I can compare all of these tones all over the whole figure. So maybe this needs to be a little bit darker than this shadow down here. And this shadow, you know, maybe another shadow could be a little lighter. Now this gets lighter as it goes up. The underside of his mouth gets a little lighter. Should I add color to Baby Yoda? I could always add a little bit of color. I could always throw marker over these pencils. Maybe that would look cool. You get to a point, once you're happy with the shadow pattern that you are laying down, that you have been laying down, and you say, okay, maybe it's time to push some of these tones. So maybe like the black of his eye. Yeah, maybe I can make that really, really black. Maybe it is safe enough to darken. So Baby Yoda is starting to come together. And add some of this little texture in his little forehead. Maybe I might throw down a little bit of a tone behind him. Another reason why I like the nice soft pencil. Bring out that little scarf thing a little bit more. And looking at some of this Velcro, some of this reference, and sometimes that scarf thing is like Velcro. Sometimes it just looks kind of wrapped. So I think I'm gonna switch over to the wrap, which seems to be what he mostly uses. He's got kind of a shadow being cast underneath that big bat-like ear. Got a few little ridges and bumps in here that get a little subtle. Good thing with keeping things light is that if you want to make any changes, you still can. So at this point, I'm going to keep noodling Baby Yoda. I'm going to keep looking back and forth to the reference, back and forth, and I'm going to see, okay, what could be lighter, what could be darker, and I'm going to keep going and tweak him until he is really, really done. He's almost done, just about. His face is done. So I don't want to belabor this and get a little too heavy into this. Maybe we could suggest a little bit of a fuzzy background. Maybe there's a moisture vaporizer. What do they call those things on Tatooine in Star Wars? Those towers. And one of those huts like Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru lived in. So I don't know if he's on Tatooine or not, but Star Wars seems to have a lot of desert planets. His little moo-moo, his little wool moo-moo. Even this can have a little shadow. Normally too, I'd be applying these tones a little more slowly, but I want to get as much done here as I possibly could. So I am gonna just about leave Baby Yoda alone here. What do you think? Is the Force with me? Let me know if you have any questions. You know what to do. Put them in the comments below. Please click like, please share, tell your friends. If you're interested in Baby Yoda can be yours for a nice pledge to Die Kitty Die. So just make sure you get a hold of me. All right? Thanks a lot, everybody. And this is the way. Till next time, keep drawing.